Sydney, Australia. 3.5 million people call it home. But here's what most visitors never learn. This city sits on the oldest living culture on Earth. It holds a UNESCO convict prison in the middle of its harbor, and its most famous building almost never got built. 10 things make Sydney unlike any city on the planet, and number 7 will change how you see the entire harbor. In 1956, the New South Wales government launched an international design competition for an opera house. Over 200 architects submitted plans. A Danish architect named Jorn Utzon sent in rough sketches, barely more than concept drawings. The judging panel rejected them, every single one. But the famous architect Eero Saarinen arrived late to the judging process. He pulled Utzon's designs from the rejected pile, spread them across the table and said, "This is your building. Today, it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. 1 million tiles cover its sails, and it all started in a trash pile." Long before the convict ships arrived in 1788, Sydney was already home to one of the world's most sophisticated civilizations. The Eora Nation, around 30 different clan groups, lived along this harbor for over 65,000 years. That's the oldest continuous culture anywhere on Earth. You can still see their rock engravings carved into sandstone around the harbor. Figures of whales, fish, kangaroos, etched thousands of years before the pyramids went up. The land the Opera House sits on is called Tuboguli. For millennia, it was a gathering place for ceremony and storytelling. Sydney didn't begin in 1788. It began in the Dreamtime. Port Jackson, what we call Sydney Harbour, is not a man-made port. It's a drowned river valley carved over millions of years, covering 504 square kilometers, 240 kilometers of shoreline. That's more coastline within Sydney Harbour than the entire coast of some small nations. Over 300 species of fish live in these waters. Dolphins appear in the harbor regularly. In winter, humpback whales pass the heads on their migration route. A city of millions sharing its front yard with creatures most people only see in aquariums. The Sydney Harbour Bridge took 8 years to build and opened in 1932. At 134 meters above the water, it remains the tallest steel arch bridge ever constructed. Locals call it the coat hanger. 6 million rivets hold it together. And if you climb to the top, a legal climb, the bridge climb experience, you stand above the entire city with the Pacific Ocean stretching to the horizon on one side and the Blue Mountains on the other. When it opened, a man on horseback beat the official ribbon-cutting ceremony, riding forward and slashing the ribbon with his sword before the premier could do it. Very Sydney. The Bondi to Coogee coastal walk is only 6 kilometers, but it packs more drama into that short stretch than most cities offer in their entire coastline. You pass the Bondi icebergs, the most photographed swimming pool in the world, where waves crash over the lane ropes. Then sandstone cliffs, hidden coves, the eerie beauty of Waverley Cemetery perched on the edge of the continent, and finally the sheltered Bay of Coogee. This walk explains Sydney better than any guidebook. The city lives on the edge between land and water. It always has. In 1879, Australia created Royal National Park, just south of Sydney. Only Yellowstone is older. That means while much of the world was still industrializing, Sydney had already set aside 15,000 hectares of coastal wilderness for the public. You can walk from rainforest gullies filled with lyrebirds to sandstone cliffs dropping straight into the Pacific in a single afternoon. The park holds the figure-8 pools, natural rock pools shaped like the number 8, carved by millennia of tidal action. A national park older than the car, sitting 30 minutes from the CBD. The Rocks is Sydney's oldest neighborhood, where the first convicts pitched their tents in 1788. Narrow laneways, sandstone buildings, terraces built by hand. For most of the 20th century, the government wanted to demolish it, bulldoze the entire area, and replace it with high-rise towers. But a residents' rebellion in the 1970s led by unions and local families, fought back and won. Today you can walk those same cobblestone streets, past pubs that have been pouring beer since 1845. The Rocks is not a museum. It's a neighborhood that refused to die. The Sydney Fish Market moves over 2,700 crates of seafood every day. It's the largest market of its kind in the Southern Hemisphere and the second largest in the world after Tokyo's Tsukiji. At 5:30 a.m., the auction floor is chaotic. Buyers bidding on tuna, swordfish, and rock lobster while the city sleeps. By 7 a.m., the public market is open, and you can eat oysters shucked minutes earlier while watching fishing boats return to dock. This is Sydney's appetite on display, a harbourside city that never lost its relationship with the ocean. Cockatoo Island sits in the middle of Sydney Harbour, a 20-minute ferry from Circular Quay. For most of the 19th century, it was a brutal convict prison. Men chained in sandstone barracks, cutting stone for the very colony that imprisoned them. Later it became a shipyard, then a naval base. Now it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site where you can camp overnight in the middle of the harbour, sleeping between convict ruins and modern art installations. An island that went from prison to playground. There's nothing else like it. 90 minutes west of the CBD, the Blue Mountains rise from the coastal plain. The name comes from the fine mist of eucalyptus oil that hangs in the air, scattering blue light across the valleys. The Three Sisters, three sandstone peaks standing side by side, dominate the view at Echo Point. According to Aboriginal legend, three sisters were turned to stone by a witch doctor to protect them during a tribal conflict. He died before he could turn them back. They stand there still, watching over the valley. A World Heritage Wilderness area larger than some countries, beginning at the edge of a global city. 10 things that make Sydney unlike anywhere else. Ancient culture and modern icons. Convict prisons and coastal walks. A harbor that doubles as a wildlife sanctuary, and a city that built one of the world's great buildings from a rejected sketch. If you enjoyed this journey through Sydney, subscribe to Fun Trails for more unforgettable destinations. See you on the next one.